Hi class. So today for our read aloud, we are going to be reading a book called Who Says Women Can't Be Doctors? The Story of Elizabeth Blackwell. It is by Tanya Lee Stone and illustrated by Marjorie Priceman. And this is what the cover of the book looks like. So let's begin. I'll bet you've met plenty of doctors in your life. And I'll bet lots of them were women. Well, you might find this hard to believe, but there once was a time when girls weren't allowed to become doctors. Back in the 1830s, there were lots of things girls couldn't be. Girls were only supposed to become wives and mothers, or maybe teachers or seamstresses. Being a doctor was definitely not an option. What do you think changed all that? Or should I say, who? Elizabeth Blackwell, that's who. A tiny wisp of a girl who wanted to explore around every corner and who never walked away from a challenge. This was a girl who had once carried her brother over her head until he backed down from their fight. A girl who tried sleeping on the hard floor with no covers, just to toughen herself up. A girl who climbed up to her roof and stretched out as far as possible with a spyglass to see what was happening on the other side of town. But she hadn't always wanted to be a doctor. Actually, blood made her queasy. One time, her teacher used a bull's eyeball to show students how eyes work. Elizabeth was repulsed. And she hadn't always wanted to help the sick. She had no patience for being sick herself. Whenever she felt ill, she simply went outside for a walk. Once, when she was little, she hid in a closet until she felt better. She hated anyone fussing over her. So why did she become the first woman doctor? Because one person believed she could and told Elizabeth she was just the kind of smart, determined girl who would change the world. That person was Mary Donaldson. When Elizabeth was 24, she went to visit her friend who was very ill. Mary told Elizabeth that she would have much preferred being examined by a woman. She urged Elizabeth to consider becoming a doctor. At first, Elizabeth could not believe her ears. Even if a girl could be a doctor, why would she want to be one? But Mary's idea gnawed at Elizabeth. A female doctor. Elizabeth thought about it the second she got up in the morning. She thought about it during her sewing circles. She thought about it over tea. She even dreamed about it at night. Finally, Elizabeth asked doctors and friends. Some thought it was a good idea, but didn't think there was any way it could be done. Others said it wasn't right. Women are too weak for such hard work. Women aren't smart enough. Ha 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 ha. Some people laughed at her. They thought she was joking. Elizabeth didn't see anything funny about a woman becoming a doctor. Elizabeth thought it was a fine idea, and her family supported her. She worked as a teacher to earn money and applied to a handful of medical schools, but they all sent back the same answer. No. No women allowed. She tried other schools. More letters arrived at her door. One by one, the answer was always the same. No, 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 no. 28 no's in all. In different ways, the letters all said the same thing. Women cannot be doctors. They should not be doctors. But Elizabeth didn't believe in couldn't or shouldn't. She refused to give up. She was as stubborn as a mule, quite rightly. One day, an envelope arrived from a college. She opened it, and everything changed. The answer was yes! Elizabeth packed her bags for Geneva Medical School in upstate New York. The townspeople were expecting her. As she walked down the street, some pointed and stared. They whispered to themselves that she must be wicked or crazy. Elizabeth thought that at least the students wanted her there, except they didn't. The teachers had let the students vote on whether or not to allow Elizabeth to come. And the boys, figuring the school would never really accept a girl, said yes. They planned to turn the whole thing into a big joke. But the joke was on them. Their raucous laughter turned to silence as the ladylike Elizabeth took her seat. They wondered what kind of girl she was, the kind of girl who wouldn't take the bait. Some thought a girl wouldn't be able to keep up, except Elizabeth did keep up, often studying past midnight. Elizabeth proved she was as smart as any boy, and soon the boys wanted to know what Elizabeth thought about this or that. It took the townspeople longer to accept her. Some people are afraid of anything new or different, but not Elizabeth. On January 23rd, 1849, Elizabeth graduated with the highest grades in the whole class. She had become the first woman doctor in America. Although many people were proud, others were angry. One doctor even wrote, "I hope, for the honor of humanity, that she will be the last." But as you know, she certainly was not. So that's the end of the book, but I am going to read the author's note real quick because I think it's important and it gives some more information on her. Elizabeth Blackwell was born on February 3rd, 1821 in Bristol, England. Although it was quite unusual for the time, her father insisted on making sure his daughters were as well educated as his sons. Her family moved to the United States when she was 11. After Elizabeth graduated from medical school in 1849, no one would hire her to work as a doctor. She went to England and France to further her training, then moved back to New York City when she was 30 years old. Finally, she persuaded a landlord to rent her office space. She hung out a sign with her name on it, Elizabeth Blackwell, MD, but the other tenants were horrified and all moved out. Frustrated, Elizabeth took long walks through the streets of New York City trying to figure out what to do. She saw many poor women and children huddled in doorways and in alleys. They were dirty and in need of care. She decided to hold a free clinic and teach people how staying clean would help them be healthy. Pretty soon, people started to talk about the wonderful new woman doctor in town. Over the years, Elizabeth and her sister Emily, who also became a doctor, healed hundreds of people. In time, they had so many female patients, the sisters started their own hospital, the New York Infirmary for Women and Children, which opened on May 12, 1857, was the first hospital run by women for women. In 1868, Elizabeth opened a medical school just for women, the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary. The next year, she moved back to her native England and helped organize the London School of Medicine for Women. And in 1871, she helped start the National Health Society, which focused on educating people about health, hygiene, and the prevention of disease. Elizabeth never married, but she did adopt a girl who was an orphan. Her name was Kitty Berry. Elizabeth Blackwell died on May 31st, 1910, at the age of 89. Many schools and hospitals are named in her honor, and according to the Association of American Medical Colleges, more than half of all the U.S. medical school students today are women. This would not have been possible without the courage and determination of this extraordinary woman. The end. What a great book. One of my favorites. So a few questions that I just want to discuss and just kind of have you guys think about is, why do you think books like this one are important to read? I think I think maybe books like this are important to read because these people really did change our world. And without historical figures like this, where would we be today? If it wasn't for her, we might not have women doctors today. Why did lots of schools reject her? I think this one's pretty obvious because she was a woman and women weren't supposed to be doctors. And then this one is just kind of an open-ended question. I want you guys to think about this on your own, and then maybe next time we meet or discuss, or in Google Classroom where this read aloud will be, I want you guys to think. Can you think of another job that women used to not be allowed to do? Any job. And I want you guys to think about that, and we'll talk about that when we meet again. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you later. Bye.